Welcome, everybody, to a look in the future, where we ask, what would you do if you could travel in the future and ask yourself questions? How do you grow your firm? How do you transition into advisory services and more? Well, luckily for all of us, we can just ask the time traveler himself, Paul Latham, and learn the knowledge we need in our firms today to evolve in advisory services and become the most relevant advisor to our clients, because that's what it's all about. As always, Garrett Wagner here, your entrepreneurial CPA channel host. And I'm joined once again by the time traveler, Paul Latham of Rock Solutions. Paul, today I thought we'd go a little more informal, just kind of casual conversation chat, something I'm hearing a lot and hearing a lot of discussion in the community. I wanted to get your futuristic thought on it. We've had such an inflection in the industry. So much change has happened. It was all forced upon us. And firms are hearing a lot of struggling that conversation between the partners. Could we just change so much? Do we continue that change? Do we go back to the way we were February 1st? From your insight, doing it all, knowing what the future looks like, what if you're a partner today, how should you approach the second half of 2020?
Hi, Garrett. Yeah, it's a great question, and obviously a very topical question. And by the way, I don't think it just applies to CPAs. I think from my experience, lots of people at the moment are sort of asking similar types of questions. Things maybe they've been thinking about changing in their life, and now is maybe the time to do it. Just looking at your specific question, I think first of all we have to say you have to look at everyone's individual circumstances. Everyone's going to be slightly different, so we always have to caveat with that. But to me, I mean, and I guess I would say this, wouldn't I? I've been beating the virtual drum one way or the other for a number of years, and it's moving in that direction. The tide is going in that direction. So when you asked that question just now, I don't know why, but a really weird analogy sort of came to mind. If you go back 100 years, there was a point in time when the horse and buggy was switching over to the motorized vehicle. And I'm just making this up, but imagine we're at a point in time where I don't know, horse and buggy manufacture just had to stop for 4 months, and motor vehicles took a leap forward. And then for some reason, horse and buggy manufacturer came back, and we say, oh, shall we all pile back into horse and buggy? And clearly we wouldn't, or you shouldn't, because the tide is going in a virtual direction. If you look at the conversations we've had over weeks and months, it's all been about the history of competitive advantage. We've moved from this to this to this. We're into the era of intangibles. We're into the era of technology and virtual. And the reality is, the last few months, everyone's got used to using virtual in a better way. So my instant reaction is, for goodness sake, don't try and fight against the tide, walk with the tide. I'm English, so I'm not very good at American sporting analogies, but isn't there a hockey thing about, essentially try and work out where the puck is going and go to where the puck is going? And I can tell you, the puck is heading towards virtual, and it would be pretty odd to do anything other than keep going with that flow. But then, caveat, having said that, I do still believe that if you can combine physical and virtual, that probably is the best of all worlds. So in my head, the way you do that, real simplistically, is if you're the CPA and you use the phrase previously, Garrett, most relevant advisor, nothing will beat sort of being with that client in person. You may or may not be able to do it at the moment, but let's just imagine in a couple of months you can sit in the same office. I really don't think you shouldn't do that. I think you should do that. But what you then can do, and we've talked about, virtual family offices, expert zones, and so on. There's nothing then to stop you being in the same room as your client, but combining it with the expertise of, we talked to an expert a couple of weeks ago. Bring them in, but bring them in virtually, and then you're combining the best of both. And there's that reassurance of being close and physical, and being there for the client, but recognizing that actually we can provide such a much better service if we then use virtual to augment it. I don't know what you think about that, Gareth.
Well, Paul, I think clearly you're not a hockey fan. You were going for the Wayne Gretzky quote that you don't skate to where the puck is, you skate to where the puck is going.
I knew it was Wayne. I was thinking, is it Wayne Gretzky? And I wasn't sure enough to say.
But no, I think that's and a little bit it's just that fear of change, I think, is what's going on in the CPA firm community, is they get that. Like, hey, exactly, your analogy there with the Model T versus horse and buggy. Great. Yes, cars are all the way. Yeah, virtual's all the way. But it's literally, I think, just that getting over that fear that, no, this is the right choice. You're not making a knee-jerk reaction to this. This is the future, like you said, competitive advantage, solidify the intangibles, technology.
Yeah. And I think all you're doing is, you see, all that's happened, I think, in the last 3, 4, 5 months is that we've accelerated the process of change. This was happening anyway. Virtual would happen, will happen anyway. All that's happened is we've shortened the change process by probably about 3 years, because we've been forced to do it. And certainly in my experience, the ones I've been talking to have been saying, do you know what? I was scared about it, but now I'm not. And I wanted it to be perfect, but we've sort of all, we've got used to Zoom calls where occasionally they freeze and occasionally you lose a bit of a connection. But really, does it matter? Not really, because we're still providing something fantastic. Just imagine if this pandemic had happened 20 years ago, how horrific it would have been, because we wouldn't have been able to contact anybody, or maybe by telephone, but it would have been horrible. We wouldn't have been able to access Netflix and videos and all sorts of things. It's here. Embrace it, but just recognize, we can actually marry the best of both worlds. Be smart, marry the best of both worlds, but embrace it. I think that's the message.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head there with that whole kind of change angle where, we were slow to make these changes. Maybe you weren't sure. You were forced to do it. Not the hardest part has been done for you. The Band-Aid's been ripped off. It went virtual.
Yeah.
Stick with it. Because we talked about in our last episode, the value of the firm. What do you do? Yeah, if you go back, you're just tanking the value of your firm. I mean, really, if you're going to go back, you might as well just sell today, like we talked about in the last episode.
Exactly. And again, going back to the Model T Ford or horse and buggy business, I don't know what year. Let's say it was about 1910 or somewhere. Try selling a horse and buggy business, or try selling a Model T Ford type business, and there's a whole different world in valuation and people wanting to buy that business. Just go with the flow. Go with the flow. We know, and the reason why we do these webinars is to try to give CPAs who are reluctant as a species to change that little bit more confidence. And I think these last few months have sort of, as you use that thing of rip the Band-Aid off, they've had the Band-Aid ripped off. Don't try and put it back on again, please. Really don't. Embrace it, enjoy it, recognize it won't always be perfect, recognize you'll get better next week and the week after, but keep on with the process. That's
so, Paul, that final question for you. As you look into the future, use your crystal ball, is there any reason why a firm should go back that you can think of? Or is it really, this is one of those things where it's universally, the answer is don't go back, don't go back, don't go back?
Well, I think what you've obviously got are different elements of fixed factors. So let's just say the biggest one in my head is, I own a great big office space. Well, you have it. And so if you have it, there's no point saying, I'm not going to go back to that office, because that would deplete the value of your office. You have it. So I think that's where you get to. Let's make the most of it. Yes, we're back in the office. Yes, we can sit down with our clients and have that physical presence, but let's also recognize that we can add virtual to that. If you're in my opinion, extremely fortunate position of not having all that fixed capital, and then said, would I buy an office today, brand new? The answer would be probably not. Probably not. I might make use of some sort of officey type solution that was more flexible and so on. But would I buy a great big office? Probably not. But see, I don't think that. See, I have a view on this. I mean, I go back 25 years. I remember working with a haulage business, and their business obviously is to own trucks and so on and haul stuff, and that's what they do. And then they bought, or they were going to buy, basically a great big, yard that they work from, and offices and so on. And I remember saying to the owner, whose name was Ken, "What business are you in, Ken? Are you in the business of hauling trucks, or are you in the business of owning real estate? And you are using up your resources to become somebody who owns real estate. And if you want to do that, great, but recognize that's what you're doing. You're moving out of the haulage business and into the real estate business. And you're also putting all your eggs into one basket in that respect. Again, if I was starting today as a CPA, would I buy offices? Absolutely not. If I've already got them, would I change it? No, I wouldn't, but I'd try and make the best of both worlds. And I think therefore you have to look at individual circumstances.
Yeah, like for us, we've got an office space. We're having less people go back there long term. We expect maybe 25% of our people will be there on some kind of consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
We'll still have the office and the conference room and those pieces,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just not going to be as widely used, to your point.
Well, and maybe you can then think of creative solutions to think, well, actually, we don't need as much office space. So how could we, I don't know, sublet the thing to someone else or whatever? Let's come up with something creative. So I think this is where, different circumstances, different answers, one size does not fit all. We don't play golf with one club. A driver off the tee is great, but it's not so good on the putting green. Let's have a bag of clubs at our disposal is sort of the best way to play golf, and it's also sort of the best way to run a business.
And end of the day, like we said all along, if you're a firm out there, you're not sure what to do, don't go back. Take this chance, accelerate that change, and have a brighter future than you had before. So Paul, as always, thank you for sharing your wisdom with the audience. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And if you want to see how ready you are for the future, if you're ready to keep ripping that Band-Aid off, take a minute and sign up for your own free biz survey to get an objective assessment of how prepared you are for the future and continue your path to future success. There's a link below. I encourage you to click on it, take the test, see where you stand today. I'm sure you'll be pretty excited and pretty surprised by the results. So as always, you can click to subscribe to the YouTube channel, stay up to date, and we challenge you today to take action to change the world and invest in yourself.